Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. There has been a lot of speculation about whether a new documentary on Irv Gotti is in the works, one that tells the unfiltered truth from the perspective of his ex-wife, Deb Lorenzo. For years, Irv Gotti has been open about his past with Ashanti, often inserting her name into interviews and public conversations. His inability to move on, coupled with his bitter remarks when she refused to engage with him, has left many wondering just how deep his obsession ran. Now, Deb is breaking her silence, revealing how Gotti's obsession with Ashanti took a toll on their marriage and family life. Deb has spoken candidly about the double life Irv led, expressing frustration over his constant availability to others while disregarding boundaries within their marriage. She believed she was building a life with someone who would cherish and protect their union, but Irv had other ideas. Even though their marriage eventually ended in 2013 after being together for a decade, many people questioned why Deb stayed as long as she did, considering how publicly he disrespected her. He belittled her in front of their children, mocked her education, and made her feel inadequate as a wife and mother. However, Deb insists that their relationship didn't start out this way. When they married in 2003, she expected him to be busy with his music career, signing deals, making money, and expanding his empire, while she held things down at home with their children. What she didn't expect was to be constantly blindsided by his affairs. To make matters worse, Irv seemed to think he was doing nothing wrong, often making Deb feel as though she was the unreasonable one for expecting loyalty. He was living a double life, and she was forced to come to terms with the fact that her marriage was far from the fairy tale she had once envisioned. Deb recalls how, at first, she tried to turn a blind eye. She knew Irv traveled frequently, but she never anticipated the influx of women who would become a fixture in his life. What made it even harder was that Irv expected her silence. He wanted her to accept his lifestyle without complaint. In her mind, she convinced herself that this was just the way things were. She was his wife, the mother of his children, and she believed that eventually, he would outgrow his infidelities and come home to his family for good. But as time went on, the reality of her situation became impossible to ignore. Their dysfunctional marriage became evident to the public when their reality show, Gotti's Way, aired in 2007. Viewers got a first-hand look at the toxicity between them, but Deb still held on to hope. She tried to leave Irv when she first discovered his infidelity, but her children played a significant role in her decision to stay. Their eldest, Sonny, didn't want his parents to split up, and Deb wrestled with the idea of breaking up their family. Irv, despite his flaws, was a devoted father who had even adopted Deb's daughter from a previous relationship, raising her as his own. She only found out years later that Irv wasn't her biological father, as he had always treated her the same as his other children. This made it even harder for Deb to walk away. However, things took a turn when Ashanti entered the picture. As the Princess of Murder Incorporated, Ashanti's star power was rising, and Irv couldn't stop talking about her. He was fixated on her career, their financial success together, and their personal dynamic. What had once been casual affairs turned into an all-consuming obsession, one that Deb could no longer ignore. As Irv spent more and more time in the studio, his presence at home dwindled. He transformed from a father who was home on weekends to a distant figure who seemed more invested in Ashanti's career than his own family. Rumors started circulating about Irv and Ashanti being more than just business partners, and when he appeared on the Wendy Williams show, he attempted to clear the air. He denied that Ashanti was a homewrecker, stating that they only got together after he and Deb had already separated. But Deb saw the situation differently. While they may have technically been separated, Irv's emotional investment in Ashanti had been evident for a long time. He was infatuated with her in a way he had never been with anyone else. He even reminisced in interviews about how he first made a move on her, vividly recalling moments that should have been left in the past. Irv's obsession only worsened when Ashanti moved on with Nelly. He couldn't handle the fact that she had left him behind, and instead of accepting it, he spiraled. His frustration and bitterness started seeping into his interactions with Deb, making her life even more unbearable. His disrespect became blatant, and their children were often witnesses to his cruelty. What made it even harder was that Deb was financially dependent on Irv. She had no job, no independent income, and no way to leave without completely uprooting her children's lives. Fear kept Deb in the marriage longer than she wanted. She worried about surviving on her own, about whether she could make it without Irv's support. But as time passed, she realized that staying was not an option. She had hoped he would come back home, that they could rebuild what they had lost, but the reality was clear: he was never going to change. Eventually, she packed up her things and left for good, a decision that she now looks back on as the best thing she ever did. Despite moving on, Irv never seemed to let go of Ashanti. He continued to talk about her in interviews, revisiting their past long after she had left him behind. While he had once been a music mogul with an empire, he became known for his endless commentary on a woman who had long since moved on. Even when he had the opportunity to tell the story of how he beat $1 million money laundering case, he chose instead to focus on his past with Ashanti. This has led many to question his emotional stability. Despite claiming that women act on emotion, Irv has spent years fixated on a woman who has never acknowledged him in the same way. Meanwhile, Deb has finally broken free from his shadow and is sharing her truth. Now, with new revelations from Deb, the public is left to wonder, will her side of the story finally be told in full? And if so, will Irv finally be held accountable for the damage he caused? Only time will tell. But for now, people can't help but marvel at the irony. After everything, it seems like the only person still stuck in the past is Irv Gotti himself. Thanks for watching. For more news and latest update, please don't forget to subscribe our channel.